There's a conversation happening in hospitals and oncology waiting rooms that desperately needs to be corrected, and I'm going to be the one to correct it right now. Because what patients are being told, or not told, about fruit, sweetness, and cancer is genuinely costing people their quality of life, and in some cases, their best chance at healing. The idea I want to tackle today sounds simple on the surface. Can eating sweet, natural foods actually help your body fight cancer instead of feeding it? The answer is yes, and I'm going to walk you through exactly why, using real clinical data, real biology, and the kind of honest explanation that every patient deserves to hear from their doctor. Let's start with how your body actually handles the natural sugars found in whole fruits, because this is where most of the confusion lives. When you eat a fresh peach, a handful of blueberries, or a crisp apple, you are not just eating sugar. You are eating a densely packed biological package that contains fiber, polyphenols, antioxidants, and dozens of bioactive compounds that your body has co-evolved with over millennia. The sugar in that fruit does not travel through your system in isolation. It travels wrapped in fiber, which slows its absorption, feeds your gut microbiome, and reduces systemic inflammation. And inflammation, I want you to remember this word, is one of the primary engines that drives cancer growth. When your gut microbiome is healthy and diverse, it produces short-chain fatty acids and immune signaling molecules that help your immune cells stay sharp, alert, and capable of identifying and destroying abnormal cells before they become a clinical problem. A diet rich in whole fruits directly supports that entire chain of events. Now let's talk about blood vessels, because this is the second major pathway through which food influences cancer behavior. Tumors cannot grow beyond a tiny cluster of cells without recruiting new blood vessels to feed themselves. This process is called angiogenesis. Certain compounds found abundantly in colorful fruits, particularly polyphenols like ellagic acid in strawberries, quercetin in apples, and lycopene in tomatoes, have been shown in laboratory and human studies to interfere with the signaling pathways that tumors use to grow new blood vessels. In other words, these compounds can functionally starve a tumor by cutting off its ability to build the infrastructure it needs to expand. This is not a fringe theory. It is documented, peer-reviewed science that has been replicated across multiple research institutions and published in major journals. And yet, because the popular narrative has reduced the entire conversation about food and cancer to the single question of sugar content, patients are sometimes actively avoiding the very foods that contain these protective compounds. Think about what that means for a moment. A patient sitting in a cancer center, scared and trying to do everything right, avoids eating blueberries because someone told them the sugar would feed their tumor. And in doing so, they deprive themselves of a food that large prospective studies have linked to significantly lower rates of certain breast cancers. That is a real harm caused by an incomplete understanding of nutrition science. And it's why I feel so strongly about getting this right. The data from landmark research efforts involving hundreds of thousands of participants over decades consistently shows the same pattern. People who eat more whole fruits and vegetables experience meaningfully lower rates of cancer across multiple organ systems. Tomatoes, which contain natural sugars alongside lycopene and other antioxidants, have been associated in human studies with substantially reduced risk of prostate cancer. Berries, with their high anthocyanin content, show up in the data linked to lower risk of certain hormone-negative breast cancers. Apples, despite being one of the sweeter fruits most people enjoy, appear in research connected to reduced lung cancer incidence. Stone fruits, peaches, nectarines, plums, apricots carry their own unique polyphenol profiles and have shown associations with reduced cancer risk in women. The common thread running through all of this is not that these fruits are low in sugar. They are not. The common thread is that they are whole, unprocessed, fiber-rich foods that carry inflammation-fighting, immune-boosting, and angiogenesis-disrupting compounds alongside their natural sweetness. And here's what I want you to take away from this if you are a cancer patient, a cancer survivor, or someone who simply wants to reduce their risk. Your immune system is your most powerful anti-cancer tool, and it is directly influenced by what you eat every single day. When you eat foods that reduce chronic inflammation, you are creating an internal environment that is hostile to cancer development. When you eat foods that feed a diverse gut microbiome, you are equipping your immune cells with the signals they need to function at their best. When you consume foods rich in anti-angiogenic compounds, you are actively working against the biological mechanisms that tumors depend on to grow and spread. None of this is magic, and none of this is a cure. I want to be completely clear about that. But food is a profoundly powerful variable in the equation of your health, and understanding it correctly means understanding the whole picture, not just one ingredient pulled out of context. The natural sugars in a peach or a bowl of strawberries are not your enemy. The fiber, the polyphenols, and the full biological complexity of those foods are actively working in your favor. So if you've been avoiding fruit out of fear, I want you to hear this clearly from DoctorLeana. The science does not support that fear, and the science does give you very good reason to embrace whole fruits as a meaningful part of how you take care of yourself. If this kind of evidence-based, myth-correcting health content is what you've been looking for, please subscribe, because breaking down the real science of food and disease in a way that is honest, clear, and genuinely useful to you is exactly what this channel is built to do. And I'll see you in the next one.